Hey kiddos, welcome to this week's homework where we are talking about percent of a number and also threw in a little bit of review for doing fractions, decimals, and percents on this first page, as you can see, just because we showed in class last week that it was kind of a need. So I wanted to put a little bit in here as well, just as practice. So remember, we're going from a percent to a decimal. First, we need to make it a fraction. Percent means out of 100, which means we can put it over 100. So we could say that it was 50 over 100. You can also simplify it to 1/2. And as a decimal, that means that I need to put the decimal place in the value that says its name. This is my hundredths place, so we would say that this is 50 hundredths. Okay, make a match. Over here, 6 over 8. You're going to have to divide this one out. You're going to have to, but it divides nicely. Remember that the 6 goes in the house. This is Graham. This is our wolf. 6 divided by 8, decimal 0. When you divide it out, you're going to find that it's 75 hundredths. And to make that a percent, we're going to multiply it by 100, which means move that decimal 2 times to get 75%. Down here, I gave you the decimal. I wanted the percent. Specifically, gave you a 1-digit decimal to make to a percent because that was something that got a few of us last week. 3/10 times 100 because percent means out of 100. That means I'm moving this 2 times. I have to add that 0. There's a big difference between 3% and 30%. And then if I'm going to make that into a fraction, I could say that it's a 3 in the 10ths place. Remember that slide. Envision it. It's really helpful. All right, 45 hundredths as a percent, times it by 100. Move it twice. 45%. This should say fraction. I will fix that by the time this gets into your hand. As a fraction, 45% or 45 over 100. You can simplify that to 9 over 20. Okay, any questions? Bring them to class. As always, 1/5. I can multiply this by 2 and make it 2 over 10 if I wanted to. 2/10 as a decimal. And 20% because when I move this decimal 2 times, I add that 0. Over here, going out of order a little bit, 75% as a fraction is 75 over 100, or it means that I have 3/4, right? Literally 3/4, 75 cents. As a decimal, 75 hundredths. Any questions? Bring them to class. All right, now into the real meat and potatoes. What is the percent of a number? So 520. What percent of 520 is 78? This is 15%. 27 is what percent of 108? It is 25%. 20% of 35 is 7. 50% of 350 is 175. 15% of 580 is 87. And 30% of 300 is 90. Questions on these? We've been working really hard on them. Bring them to class. 60% of 40 is 24. 50% of 90 is 45. 25% of 132 is 33. And 40% of 60 is 24. 10% of 800 is 80. And 75% of 620 is 465. Remember with these, when we're just doing percent of a number, 60% of 40. Of means multiply. This is why we worked so hard last week on how to do a percent to a decimal, because we were going to need it this week. Okay? Questions? Bring them to class. 12 is 15% of what number? It is 15% of 80. 90% of 230 is 207. 20% of 640 is 128. 252 is 35% of 720. 56 is 70% of 80. And 45% of 100 is 45. On to our last page, we threw in some word problems to see how you do with them. Carla brought 90 muffins. Remember, with word problems, figure out what they're asking and what numbers they're giving you. Carla brought 90 muffins, and 40% of them were blueberry. How many of the muffins were blueberry? So 90 muffins, 40%, 36 of her muffins are blueberry. Over here, we have a class of 32 students, and 8 of them are girls. What percentage of the class is girls, and what percentage is boys? So 32 students, and 8 of them are girls. That means that 8 out of 32 are girls. So we need to figure out, what does that look like as a percent? Well, first of all, we're going to divide 8 by 32, and we get 25 hundredths. That means that 25% of the class is girls. If 25% of the class is girls, then that means that 75% of the class is boys. Over here, Megan is working out. She spent 25 minutes doing cardio, which was 20% of her total workout. How long did she work out for? So if it's 20% to get to 100%, we're going to multiply it by 5, because 20 times 5 is 100. We know percent means out of 100. So when we multiply that by 5, we get 125 minutes. Okay, we just have to think about, what are they giving me and what am I missing? Jim has 400 blocks. 260 of them are blue and 140 of them are red. What percentage of his blocks are red? So he has 400 blocks in total, and he said that 140 of them are red. So I'm going to do 140 divided by 400. That means that the 140 goes in the house, the 400 goes out. That gives me 35 hundredths, or 35%. Down here, we have 2 more. A farm has 280 crops planted, and 80% of them are corn. How many corn plants did they have? So we have 280, and we want to figure out what 80% of that would be. That means that 224 are corn plants. And then the last one for this week, we have a box of tacks, has 12 green in it, which is 30%. How many tacks are in the box? So if 12 is 30%, then that means that there are 40 tacks in the box. Any questions? Bring them to class.